Now that we have created an online assessment along with a test administration, the third part of this is administering the assessment to the students. And you'll be happy to know that this is probably the easiest part of the whole process. So what you're going to do is direct your students to the EDMS website, and they can just type in eadms.com. It's going to bring them to the home page, and the students would click on the login to online testing. They type in their Paris Union student ID number. And then they're going to see this big screen of all these assessments, and for now we just have to have it set up like this. But here's a pretty good trick that you can pass along to your kids. It helps them find certain text on a page. So what we're going to do is they would click on or hold down the control button and then hit F. So I'll do control F, and then I'm going to type in the test ID number. And this is why it's important to know that test ID number, because the kids have to know it to get to the test. Another thing too, these tests are all sorted by order, so you can see they go in numeric order here, so another good reason for the kids to know the test ID number. So once the students find that, then they click on begin test and type in the student ID number. Okay, and now if you remember back in the second tutorial, we put in a password. This allows the teacher to keep the kids, get them all on the same page before they actually start taking the test, and then it also keeps your test secure. So once the students start taking the test, they would know that they could get to that screen, but you have this password here so that they can't move along and see your test, without you knowing about it. So I'm going to type in the password, and the teacher would give this to the students orally and probably write it on the whiteboard or somewhere in the class. You also might want to consider giving different passwords, or maybe even changing the password after each class period. That way the test stays even more secure. So the student would type in the password, then hit login, begin test, and then they would go through, and just like any test, really important to get in the habit of teaching the students to read the directions. In this case, there were at least 2 correct answers, so they want to make sure they read all the directions. And then the students would just go through. This is a constructed response item. So the student type in their answer, then hit next. They can also jump around and go back to questions that they've already answered. Keep in mind that we did hit the option for the students or for the test to be scrambled, so the students would get different tests at each time. Okay, so after they go through the whole test, they would click on the finish button. And it said we didn't answer all the questions, so I can go back now and change the answer. And then I would just go through and finish up the test, click on finish, and then submit. And in this case, I didn't study very well, so I got 0 out of 11 points. This was the option that I chose on the test to do score only. So if I had chosen none, it wouldn't have told me this. If I would have chosen the third one, it would have actually given me the correct answers. A couple other questions that have come up. The students, unfortunately right now, there's no way to lock them into the test. So they could go into other tabs. So unfortunately right now, there isn't that security feature. So the teacher really has to walk around the room and make sure that the kids are on just the assessment. So that wraps up the end of the three-part tutorial. We learned how to create an online assessment, create a test administration, and actually administer the assessment to the students.